Good morning everybody, and welcome to our sunrise safari. And it could not have gotten off to a better start. We had audio for this male calling, and we came out towards Impala Plains and bumped into him straight away. And isn't that amazing? One of the Birmingham Boys, he's busy on a Territorial patrol, so we've seen him scent marking quite a bit already this morning, lots of vocalizing, and so hopefully there'll be a lot more to come. But we couldn't have asked for a much better start. It's amazing. So Dave and I are thrilled. We'd like to welcome all the viewers from around the world. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day wherever you may be, or a wonderful evening. And I'm glad that you can all join us. And like I say, what a start that we've gotten here. You can see he's still quite full from that buffalo that they consumed yesterday. But he is on a bit of a mission. He keeps stopping and listening out. I wonder if he's maybe not picked up some audio for the sticks. He's heading exactly to where we had the sticks yesterday morning and yesterday afternoon. So I wonder if he maybe didn't hear the sticks during the night, and that's where he's off to go and try and see if he can locate on them. There's so far no sign of any of the others, other Birminghams. Maybe they're still lounging about where the buffalo was, but we're going to follow this guy and just see where he takes us. It looks like it is in Suku, but I'm not 100% sure. And that is how to start a day in Africa. Isn't that the most incredible sound? I really, really, really love when lions roar. So to start the day like that is absolutely unbelievable. But I'm going to catch up with him quickly before he disappears. But like I say, that sound is just something that you can never, ever, ever forget. It's one of those things that any guide will tell you is a sound that they always, always, always enjoy to hear. So it really is quite something. That sound will be carrying all over this area. He'll be announcing himself to everybody, making sure that everybody knows that he's here, that this is his territory. And if the Styx females are around, they would have then heard that and will be either coming towards it, or potentially they will be moving away from it, depending on their the way that they feel this morning. So I'm just going to try get round. So Laura would like to know, does this lion always have a limp? Laura, I must be honest, I haven't seen much of the Birminghams over the last few months, but every time I do see them, they seem to have these limps like this. The limp seems to get better the more that they walk. It's almost like when they lie down for long periods of time, which this guy would have been doing during last night to try and digest that buffalo, that they get a strong lactic acid buildup in their limbs, and that becomes quite difficult for them to walk. Over time, as he moves and as he walks around this area, so the muscles loosen up, the joints loosen up, and the limp becomes less obvious. But yes, they have got a few limps. I've seen one or two of the Birminghams limping around. They also have fought quite a bit with each other, so there's quite a few wounds. You can see he's actually got a wound on his left eye at the moment that's still busy healing. And you can see just having a good scent mark there. So he's rubbing his face, which has got some scent up on that bush, and then he's going to lift his tail and urinate. There we go. And that will be a nice chemical signature to everybody that this is my territory. And you can hear in the background, there's also a whole bunch of impalas alarm calling at him. So they expressing their displeasure this morning at him walking around and vocalizing. And so you'll actually find that they'll stay quite close. They're not going to move too far, just so that they can keep him in eyesight. What they don't want to do is run away blindly. They don't know how many other lions are around, and also they could then potentially run and lose visual of him, and he can go into an area and start stalking them. So you'll find that they'll kind of follow him around, shouting, telling everybody that they've managed to see and locate a predator, and that everyone must be very, very careful. But isn't he magnificent? The manes on these Birminghams have really gotten much, much larger over the last few months, and they are really looking absolutely incredible. And I tell you what, it's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful morning. We've got these few clouds. There's a beautiful sunrise that's lighting up the clouds, giving it a purplish tinge. And I tell you what, the morning could have not have started any better. Oh, we've just stopped to have a little groom quickly. So you'll find that they often do this as they're walking around. They'll get maybe a burr or a seed stuck to their coat or in their mane, or something kind of loosens, and so they often, during the walking process, will just stop to groom themselves, get rid of any of those things, and then they'll carry on again. But that is as picturesque setting as you could ever ask for. Like I say, male lion, dead tree in the background, sun rising, bit of cloud to reflect all the light, and it doesn't get much better than that. Hopefully he'll also roar towards us at some point now. Alright guys, so just going to come past the vehicle here. I just want to see where he's going to go from here. But you can see how close he's walking, and you can see he's completely relaxed with us. There's nobody, he's not turning towards us in any way or looking at us. He's on his own mission, but you can see how he stops and listens extensively. He's kind of looking around all the time, and like I say, I'm pretty sure he's trying to locate the sticks. Where they were last night from here is really not far at all, so hopefully they will reunite. It would be quite nice if we got all of them together, including the little cubs. I haven't heard any audio for any other lions, so I haven't heard him calling to his brothers or to his coalition members. And I haven't heard any females responding either, but he seems to be hearing something. He keeps stopping and, like I say, looking in the same direction. That's absolutely incredible. What an amazing sound. That is one of those sounds, like I say, that just carries over the bush. And actually, while he was roaring, I heard another lion calling to our south here. So it seems like he is contacting another lion. I don't know if it's a male or a female. It is very far away, so it was very faint. And with him roaring, it's difficult to hear the other one with him making such a big noise. But it seems like he's now heard that one and knows that they are calling, and so if he sits now and calls from here, they can potentially come and find him should they want to. So it seems as though, oh, he's up and moving again. So Julia would like to know what a lion's scent mark smells like. Julia, as we drive over his scent mark, there's actually not too much of a smell to it. It's not like a leopard that has that very popcorn kind of smell. This one is really nondescript. There's no real scent to it. Lion urine can sometimes get quite pungent over a day or two, but generally it smells just like cat wee would. But this that we've just driven over now has got no scent whatsoever. But what I can tell you is that he is passing wind, and that is not very pleasant at all. He's just dropped a little bomb on his way here, and it smells like a 3-4 day old buffalo, which is not very pleasant at all. So very sneaky and not very pleasant of him, but alright, so while we follow him through these thickets and see if maybe he's going to link up with any of the others, we can go back to Byron so you can say his good mornings. And guys, I hear you've been hearing all about Byron's adventures over the next few months, and he's indeed quite a busy boy. So we'll have to follow him on his social media accounts as he was talking about. This male is still mobile straight south at the moment, and like I say, he's going to pop out exactly where we had the sticks yesterday. I'm pretty sure he's not going towards where they were lying yesterday, but where that audio is coming from. Maybe it's the 4th Birmingham that we didn't have yesterday. I know there was only 3 of them yesterday, so maybe it's the 4th one. When he has been roaring, we haven't seen any or heard any sign of the other 2 that were further north of us yesterday. So I'm not sure which line is calling back. We haven't had any more audio for it, and he seems to be on a serious mission though. He's moving quite quickly now. I'm just going to try and get around this bush. But like I say, look at the colors in the background in the sky there. Isn't that absolutely spectacular? It doesn't get much better than that. I'm just going to try and move us slightly so the aerial's out of the way. There we go. But look at those pinks. Beautiful. So Mary from Wisconsin would like to know, how fast does a lion run and how many miles can they move in a day? Well, Mary, in terms of the miles moving a day, it's quite variable. Some lions, particularly the males, once they are territorial, sometimes can move massive distances to protect their territory, and so you'll find that they can sometimes do easily 10 miles in a night or a day, patrolling their territory. Let's just change direction. And in terms of their speed, a lion can get to about 80 kilometers an hour at full speed. All right, so that in miles is probably close to about just over 65 miles an hour. So very, 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 very fast. The thing about lions is they're not as fast as a cheetah, but what they do is that they utilize each other. So when they are chasing, they'll try and utilize one another to chase towards each other, and that means that even if they don't have quite as much speed as the cheetah, using cooperative hunting, they can often grab the things that they're hunting by chasing towards one another. So he's just changed direction. Looks like he's kind of doubling back on himself. So I just want to try and turn us around so we can actually see him. And he seems to have spotted something in the bush up ahead here. He's almost going into a stalk position. You can see he's kind of very interested, and he's being a lot more careful about where he's putting his feet, and he seems to be staring very intently into this bush. I can't see anything. I don't know if Dave, if you can see anything, but I definitely can't see anything in front of us. But it's potentially there could be some animal that's inside here that he's now noticed, that hasn't noticed him, that's piquing his interest. Wouldn't it be great if there was a buffalo inside here? That would be quite something. But whatever it is, he's definitely very, very interested. So I'm just going to wait here and just see. I don't want to disturb any sort of hunt that he might be doing. Like I say, it could also be another lion that he's spotted, and that's why he's approaching cautiously, so that he doesn't approach a lion that's possibly not one of his coalition members or a lioness that he doesn't know. Like I say, it could be either of those at this stage. I'm just going to go around a little bit behind him so that we can just see maybe what he's actually staring at. Buffalo. So Shadow Koi would like to know how loud is a lion's roar, but before I answer that, I've just spotted a buffalo that's up ahead of him here. So it looks like he's stalking buffalo, and they are tucked up in this thicket here across the road, and he's busy watching them. So I don't know if maybe we're going to potentially see a hunt. Dave, I don't know if you can see. There we go. There's the buffalo. Busy feeding, and it doesn't seem like the buffalo has seen him at all. So hopefully we're going to get a situation where he'll actually do a proper stalk for us. But while he lies here and watches the buffalo, you were asking me about how loud a lion can roar. Well, a lion can roar very, very loud. It's the loudest sound of any land mammal in the world. And when they vocalize for us as people, we can hear them from about 5 kilometers or 3.5 miles away. So if you think about how loud something has to be for a sound to travel 3.5 miles, it is incredibly, incredibly loud. For the lions themselves, depending on the terrain and the conditions, they can sometimes hear each other as much as 10 kilometers or 6 miles, 6-7 miles, which is crazy, crazy distance. So very, very loud is the answer to that. But you can see the buffalo just starting to come out. Now it looks like a herd of Dugger boys or male buffalo, and so I would imagine that it's going to be quite tough for him. If it was just one buffalo on its own, then potentially he would have a chance, but a group of male buffalo with him by himself is going to be very, very difficult, because often what will happen with the buffalo is they'll actually start to kind of come together and try and actually then push the lion away. So they present a united front with horns facing forward, and they then will try and chase that male. So it would be quite a difficult thing for him to bring down one of these buffalo. I do see a female there as well, so that's maybe who he could be targeting. You could see she's quite skinny as well. Still some of the effects of the drought that we've had. Some of the buffalo haven't quite put on enough condition just yet. So this could be potentially what he's looking at. I don't see any calves though. But the majority of this herd is males. You can see the difference actually there between the male and female. The male on the left and the female in the center of the screen. You can see her horns are not nearly as big as what the males are, and they lack that kind of big helmet-like structure on top of their head. But it mostly look like males in this. You can see some big males in the background there coming through. So this would be a very difficult hunt for him. But they are slowly but surely edging their way closer to us, and obviously then closer towards this lion. And he's getting lower and lower and lower as he's trying to hide away so that the buffalo don't see him. I'm pretty sure, though, these buffalo have heard him and will know that there's a lion in this area. But maybe they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, given that there's lions roaring south and north of them. I suppose they've just got to take their chances and go to wherever they can. But they are, like I say, getting a lot closer, and so it will be quite interesting to see what his next move is going to be, or what their move is going to be. If they pick up the scent and see him, you'll probably find that they're going to come charging towards him and try and chase him away. And like I say, they'll kind of make a big structure in front with all the horns facing forward and try and then push this male lion away from this area. You can see the buffalo are getting a little uncomfortable. I wonder if maybe the scent is not just drifting onto them now, and that they've picked up that there's something wrong here. They're all huffing and puffing a little bit, and they're trying to kind of come out into more open section. It's going to be quite difficult for this male lion because there's really not too much cover for him. You can see where the buffalo is standing now. The grass is quite short, and so for him, he's not going to be able to stalk up too close. And you can see with the buffalo how they've packed together really tightly now. So had this been a situation where the buffalo were just grazing along and there was no lion, you would find that they'd be a lot more spread out and strung out, and they would be feeding in all different directions, whereas now they've come right together, and it's going to be really quite difficult for a lion to grab any one of those out of the middle of that. So what he'll probably try to do if he does hunt is try and run in there and cause a bit of panic and try and get the buffalo to separate and then grab one of them. Oh, having a little rub. He's obviously not too perturbed about what's going on. You can see with their heads those massive set of horns, and that's why the lion will be very, very careful when it comes to this. So this one is busy sniffing, trying to scent. It can obviously pick up that there's something here that they need to be very careful of. So a buffalo will always do this when it feels like there's something around. They lift their heads right up and they're trying to catch any sort of breeze that's blowing that potentially could bring the scent of whatever threat is around. And like I said, there's a gentle breeze. It's not very strong at all, but it is coming from the west towards the east, which is from where this lion has walked towards where the buffalo are standing. So it seems like they now have picked up that scent and they know something is up. They probably can't see this lion, especially now that they've moved around the vehicle. The lion is kind of way between the lion and the buffalo at this stage. And so it's, in all likelihood, they can't see it, but they can smell him. He seems to not be too interested now. He's kind of turned his head away and is not actually even watching anymore. I think he's realized there's far too many buffalo here for him to hunt. But while we kind of watch and see what plays out, we're going to go across to Byron, who seems to have his favorite animal with him. So we're still busy following this male. He's still generally mobile in a southerly direction. I believe I've spoken to some of the other guys that are out on drive from some of the commercial lodges, and I believe one of the other males is somewhere in front of us, so I'm pretty sure that's where he's heading to. It's still quite a way away from where we are, but what I'm hoping is that eventually they're going to come together. That's the kind of plan, is to try and follow them and see them reunite. So he's going to the toilet now, which is hopefully for us we're not downwind, because that's not going to be pleasant. As we've been following him along, Dave has noticed that he's been dropping quite a few bombs and passing quite a bit of gas that has really not been pleasant to smell at all. So that's not going to be very pleasant, what he's just left behind there, and so we're going to try and avoid that as best as possible. But with the buffalo earlier, the buffalo actually caught his scent. Oh, look at that. He's gone up and he's busy sharpening his claws. So you can see he's got his two front paws up on the tree, gets his claws out, and he's going to scrape them along that tree. And that just gets the point nice and sharp, so when he needs to use them, they're in the best condition possible. So like I was saying with the buffalo, they caught the scent, and then unfortunately they just ran away. And I think because he's quite full-bellied and had a buffalo yesterday, he's not really that interested. Also, there was just far too many buffalo for one male lion to go after. Lots of big males in that group. Got up and carried on. I'm sure the buffalo were quite perturbed. They ran off at quite a speed and were gone in a few seconds. So we're just going to go through a little bit of a thick area, and then we're going to come out onto a really nice open section, which will be really pretty. So Sarah would like to know how much a male lion weighs. It is quite variable and it depends on certain areas, but anywhere from about 200 kilograms or 400 pounds to about 300 kilograms or 600 pounds. So anywhere in that category. This male that we're seeing here, he's not the largest of males that I've ever seen. He is quite bulky, but he's not massive. So I would imagine he's probably around the 220 mark, so just over 450 pounds. But that is still big in anybody's book, and that's a big kitty if you ask me. So Just trying to find a little gap to get through here to follow him. It's quite a few thorn trees here that are not great for our tires, so we're going to try and avoid those. Don't particularly want to puncture next to a male lion, so we're just going to try and ease our way through here. Just watch your head there, Dave. So you can see he's actually about to get onto a very prominent path. So this path would, in all likelihood, be made from multiple different animals. So things like elephants, hippos. You'd find that zebras would utilize this quite a bit. So this is an area where, you know, often other animals will use just because it lacks grass, and so therefore not as many ticks or parasites, and so a really comfortable place for a lion to walk. Also, he's not getting smashed in the eye by grass seeds, and so very comfortable for him to go here. All right, so while we follow him and see if he's going to join up with his coalition member, let's go back to Byron and see what update he's got for us. Of the thickets, he's making his way onto this beautiful big open area. You can see he's just passing one of the commercial vehicles there, and behind us, so I'm sure he's going to make his way towards this open section, and I'm hoping that he's going to maybe go static on this open section. It's an area where, you know, they often lie down. I have seen the Birminghams here quite often. They like this open clearing, and so hopefully this is where he's going to settle. But we have a very picturesque scene. You can see the sun rising behind him there, and isn't that absolutely beautiful? I'm just going to try get a little bit in front of him. He's still very mobile southwards, so to just try and get in front and get a bit of light on him. But isn't that spectacular? Beautiful big open area, clouds, a male lion striding across. Still got that limp. It's not getting much better. I thought it would have walked it out by now, but it seems he's still got it. So probably a bit of damage somewhere there. But male lions are very resilient animals and very hardy, so he'll be able to recover from that, no problem. So he's just gone behind the vehicle, so just checking where he went. But he's absolutely unperturbed by us. So it doesn't seem like he's going to actually settle down at all. It seems like he's still going straight southwards. I'm not quite sure exactly where his brother is in relation to where we are now, but as far as I heard, was not too far from where we are now. So like I say, hoping that maybe one of them is going to vocalize and the other one will respond, and we'll be able to get the two reuniting. It's always quite nice to find the coalition members reuniting. It's the softer side of male lions. They often then, you know, will bond with each other by rubbing up with their heads, and sometimes even a little bit of playfulness that happens where they'll kind of roll around on top of each other and they'll bite and kind of tap each other with their paws. But he is an absolutely magnificent animal. Very, very, very beautiful. So I believe a lot of you are commenting about the trackers and how brave they are sitting on the front of the vehicle with the lion right there. And indeed, it's quite something to sit on the front of a vehicle with a massive male lion coming straight towards you. I have actually had instances where male lions have gone and sniffed the feet of trackers, and I think that takes a special kind of courage, just to sit there and let it sniff around. I even had one incident, in fact, right where we are now, with a pride of lions, that the females were sub-adults and they were quite curious subadults, and they actually went up to a trucker and started to play with his boots. They obviously found the leather had a bit of a taste and a bit of a smell to it, and so they were pulling on his shoe while he was still sitting there, and eventually he actually had to try and kick one of the lions to stop him being pulled off the front of the seat. It was quite something, and at the time the tracker actually didn't look too perturbed at all. He was laughing about it, but it was quite something to watch, I tell you what. And afterwards, his whole front of his shoe was absolutely soaked with lion saliva, which is probably not the best thing to have. There'd be a lot of bacteria and a lot of smell coming off that, that's for sure. But I think that's him. He's decided this is where I'm going to stop for a while, and if my coalition member wants to join me, then this is where he's going to find me. You can see he's now starting to groom, which is often a sign of a male lion just slowing down for the morning. After walking like he has done now through these bushy areas, he would have loosened his fur. There will be a few ticks that would have gotten onto him, and so he's just grooming all of that out to try and make sure that his coat is in its best possible condition, and so that when he rests during the day that he's not going to get covered in ticks and bitten all over the place. And so that's why he's grooming. Also, you can see his paws there are a little bit wet. Alright, and so cats are not a huge fan of wet paws, so he'll just be grooming that excess water off and getting that matted fur back into decent shape. But you can actually see on the tongue there the big hooks that they have. So they have a very rough sandpaper like tongue, and so when they groom like this, it really works quite well. It's basically like running a brush through their coat, and they're getting rid of any little bit of grass seeds or ticks or anything that might be in there. So Eric would like to know, do lions get hairballs like house cats? Well, they can get hairballs, but generally their stomach is so acidic that most of the hair gets digested or is passed through and defecated. It's very seldom you'll actually see them coughing up a hairball. Generally it just comes out through their dung. So unlike cats that will basically cough one up and regurgitate hair, these guys just let it go through their system and pass it on the other side. But he's starting to get that kind of sleepy, dopey look about him. The eyes are starting to get quite heavy. You can see they're starting to close a little bit. So I'm sure as soon as he's finished grooming, we're going to see the typical male lion flop, which is when they just literally flop their head down and pass out for the day. The only thing is where he is now is going to be a very warm day for him if he stays there. It's already, the temperature is climbing and the clouds are dispersing, and so he's going to be right in the sun if he stays there. So I'd imagine from here he's probably going to try to find a shady area where he'll lie down before he passes out completely for the day. So Michael would like to know how big a Birmingham Boys territory is. Well, Michael, at the moment, their territory, I'm not exactly sure precisely how big it is, but if I had to hazard a guess in the areas that they inhabit and where they spend their time, that their territory currently is probably around about 10,000 hectares, or in acres that would be close to 20,000 acres. So it is quite large, and that is the advantage of having a coalition. All right, so because there's more than one of them, they're able to establish a very large area, which will include multiple females and will therefore be a lot easier to protect because there's more of them, and each one can then patrol different sections, and so they can keep that larger area to themselves. So yeah, I would say about 10,000 hectares, 20,000 acres, but it will shift and change according to other males that are in the area. So as these guys get bigger, males that potentially on their fringes get older, they'll push those guys a little bit more and take their territories, and then you might find younger males or a bigger coalition starts to come into the area, and so then their territory will shrink a little bit. So it ebbs and flows all the time, but at this current moment, about that size. Alright, so while he sits and grooms himself and we wait the arrival of his brother, we can go back to James and see what he's found on bushwalk. Carried on mobile south and has eventually come into this little thicket that we have here where he's positioned himself. He still has his head up and is still listening quite intently. While we were following him, he actually came to an area where we found some of the tracks for the sticks from yesterday, and so he was sniffing around quite a bit and doing a couple phlegm and grimaces to test the scent and see who exactly it was, but he seems quite satisfied that there's nothing really too interesting to follow there, so I don't think any of the females are in heat. Still no more audio from the other coalition member. He's also hasn't called again, so I think he's actually just trying to find a place to bed down for the day. It's a nice shady thicket that he's got here, and the sun has just started to come out and break through the clouds, and so it was getting quite warm, so I think it's a good place for him. You can see he's grooming a little bit there, so it's often a sign that they're starting to look for a place to rest for the day. Tell you what, he's quite dexterous for a big lad. To be able to bend over and lick over your own shoulder is quite amazing. So quite a flexible spine that they've got. Most cats actually do have it. So you'll find that they're all able to kind of get around and groom all those areas. I tell you what, he's also quite brave putting his nose near his backside. Like I was saying earlier, the smell emanating from that backside this morning is quite something. We've had a few gag reflexes. Dave's been suffering on the back here, so he's a brave boy to put his nose right there, that's for sure. Hopefully he'll be good to himself and won't pass gas while he's got his nose there. If you look at his paws there, you can actually see he's got his claws all the way out. So he's bracing himself, trying to make his legs stiff to just balance himself while he grooms. And you can see the size of those paws when he was doing it. Absolutely massive. But it looks like he's going to be resting for the day. Like I say, he's kind of in this thicket, and it looks like a really good place for a male lion to sleep for the day. The only problem is there's lots of flies where we are now. You can actually see that his tail is going excessively there. He's turning quite a bit, and you can actually see all the flies landing on them. So those are all little biting flies, and those flies are really quite painful when they bite into you. And so those will be driving him crazy. And because he's got a full belly, he probably still has a bit of smell to him with in terms of rotten meat, and so a lot of the flies will be landing on him because of that. So I might find that he might move from where we are now. The flies weren't nearly as bad when we were following him to this point, and it's as we've kind of come down into this thicker area where it's quite moist and wet that there's a lot of flies around. So there we go, it's just up and grooming. Like I say, they almost like a gymnast when they move like this. So Michael would like to know why lion and leopard claws are retractable and cheetahs are only semi-retractable. Well, the answer is that the lions and the leopards do not run fast enough to need their claws all the time. A cheetah, when it's running, it needs those claws out to be much like a sprinter on a track. So you can imagine those Olympic athletes, they have those shoes with those little spikes on them, and that is exactly the same for a cheetah. Those claws just help for them to gain traction when they're running, whereas lion and leopard, because they don't run nearly as fast, they don't actually need that traction like the cheetah does, and so that's why their claws are unsheathed. Also with leopard, they need to be able to climb, and so they need sharp claws to be able to hook in and be able to climb up. The other thing with lion and leopard is both of them will rely on claws to grip an animal, whereas a cheetah, often because of the speed that it's running, uses an ankle tap. So it doesn't need the claws to actually dig into the animal to hold it. It just taps the legs of that antelope, and that antelope then falls over. Whereas these guys, the claws will actually dig in and they'll hold on and then be able to pull that animal down. And so if they had their claws out all the time, much like a cheetah, they start to blunt. Michael, I don't know if you've got dogs or at home, but if you have dogs, you'll know that their claws are always out, and because of them moving and running around, the claws tend to get very dull and not very sharp, and so, it's much better for the lions to keep those protected when they need them. All right, so while we kind of see what this male gets up to and see if he's actually going to bed down for the day, we're going to go back to James, who seems to have a little creepy crawly for you.